In 1789, European intellectuals were busy drafting manifestos about universal rights and natural equality, but the global economy financing those elegant parlors ran on something else entirely: the systemic, brutal enslavement of African people. No place embodied this contradiction more clearly than the French colony of Saint-Domingue. It was the crown jewel of the Atlantic economy, turning out nearly half the world's supply of sugar and coffee. This 18th century engraving shows how the colony was structured. 500,000 enslaved people labored here, controlled by a tiny armed minority. Looking at these numbered buildings and rigid fields, you see a system built for industrial extraction, treating human life as a disposable input. The French and American revolutions claimed to champion liberty, but Saint-Domingue exposed the reality. The wealth of the era relied entirely on keeping hundreds of thousands of people in chains. When the French Revolution broke out, Saint-Domingue's wealthy white planters and free people of color began fiercely debating who deserved political rights. Both sides, however, completely ignored the enslaved majority. By August 1791, the people working those fields reached a clear conclusion: freedom was never going to be given to them by their enslavers. Following a secret gathering known as the Bois Caïman ceremony, the enslaved population rose up. They set the sugar plantations ablaze and dismantled the colonial order by force, engaging European troops in close-quarters combat. This uprising terrified the surrounding empires. The enslaved workers struck directly at the foundation of the Atlantic economy. Sensing French weakness, both Spain and Britain opportunistically invaded the colony, turning a local rebellion into a massive multi-faction war. This historical map highlights the colony's strategic value. Its extensive coastlines and shared border with Spanish Santo Domingo made it a prime target for rival empires eager to seize its wealthy ports. Facing the total loss of the colony, the French Republic made a desperate, calculated move. In 1794, they legally abolished slavery, hoping to win the allegiance of the insurgent armies. Toussaint Louverture, a brilliant, formerly enslaved general, negotiated a deal. He aligned his highly disciplined army with France and successfully pushed the British and Spanish forces out of the territory. For the first time, a black leader was effectively governing a major Atlantic colony. European powers were forced to reckon with the military and political genius of people they had previously considered property. In 1801, Toussaint issued a constitution that permanently banned slavery within the territory, while keeping Saint-Domingue under the French flag. Across the Atlantic, the new French dictator, Napoleon Bonaparte, saw this autonomy as a direct threat to the profits he needed to fund his empire. In 1802, Napoleon dispatched a massive, heavily armed naval armada. The mission was explicit: eliminate Toussaint and violently reinstate colonial slavery. The invasion triggered a brutal war of attrition. French forces committed widespread atrocities and eventually managed to capture Toussaint, shipping him to a prison in France. Napoleon's betrayal clarified the stakes. The remaining revolutionaries realized that any compromise with France meant re-enslavement. Absolute independence was their only path to survival. The remaining black and mixed-race generals, now united under the command of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, launched a final, uncompromising campaign against the French troops. The indigenous army fought fiercely, and their efforts were aided by a devastating outbreak of yellow fever that decimated the European ranks. By late 1803, Napoleon's forces were completely defeated. The loss of his most profitable colony was a massive strategic blow. Without Saint-Domingue, Napoleon had no way to finance or supply his ambitions for a broader Western empire. This 19th century map illustrates the direct fallout. Trading, Napoleon sold France's enormous North American territories, the red-shaded Louisiana Purchase, to the young United States. It is one of history's sharpest ironies. The military victory of formerly enslaved fighters in the Caribbean inadvertently cleared the path for the United States to expand across the continent. On January 1, 1804, Dessalines officially declared the independence of a new nation, the Republic of Haiti. The country's founding constitution accomplished what no other document of the era dared to do. It permanently abolished slavery and explicitly established racial equality before the law. The surrounding slave-holding empires reacted with terror. The United States, Britain, and France actively blockaded and isolated Haiti, desperate to stop the spread of successful slave revolts. This isolation turned into long-term economic punishment. In 1825, France sent warships back to the island, extorting crippling financial reparations from Haiti in exchange for diplomatic recognition. European powers extracted a devastating financial toll over the next century. Yet the Haitian Revolution stood as proof of an irreversible achievement. By dismantling the era's most profitable slave colony, these revolutionaries transformed the concept of liberty into a universal right that could be seized and defended.